I think PHP is fairly underrated nowadays. It is an incredible place to start, like all batteries included, everything you might want in the project.
There are no frameworks in JavaScript. They don't include anything. There are no database adapters. There's no auth baked into any of these things. There are none of the things you need for a web framework to actually function.
Curious to hear, what was your first ever programming project that you got into?
I think the first thing I tried to make, as many people do, is a blog or something like this. And I vividly remember this. I had like a jokes link at the top of the header. And I think I Googled some jokes to put on there, something like this. And I'm like, I don't even, like, why did I have this page on my personal website or whatever?
That's awesome. Would it be accurate to assume that you made the website on PHP?
Almost early days, it was all PHP all the time, which is, I think still today, is got to be one of the best beginner languages. It's so easy, low boilerplate. Things make sense for the most part.
It's simple to understand.
Yeah.
It's like if you load a page and it's got like some server-side processing stuff required, it's on that page and you're not having to pull from other files or libs. And it's like if this page, like if I go to like /dashboard and it fails, it's most likely, unless you're getting into some crazy stuff, the error is going to be on the dashboard.php page, and you don't have to look a ton. Because that was my first that was my first web language that I did it in, and it was really interesting because my 3D printing company, I would have it so when you upload a file within like the quote page where it would display like the 3D file price, it would go through the entire slicing project or process in like the server action of the PHP page. So it would take 1.5 minutes to like load the page, and I didn't know how to like implement like a loading thing. And this is 7 years ago when I was like 13, and it was just loading, and I was, well, I guess the user could just like wait 1.5 minutes for the page to load, and I didn't know about timeouts, but it was a great starter language, I'll tell you that, because I learned that was not a good idea, and that users have a very, very, very short attention span.
Yeah, I think it's also nice because it was more forgiving. Like, it's actually quite hard to build a new application these days. Like, if we're honest with ourselves, like, there is so much complexity. Like, take JavaScript. Good luck. Good luck teaching somebody about every little thing you need to know to deploy a TypeScript app, let alone like a Next.js TypeScript app. It's so many abstractions that are like implicit and invisible, and then you got the build system. It's not a great place to be in for technology, in my opinion. PHP was like a sweet spot.
They see a Webpack error. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I do a lot of TypeScript these days, and it's a good language, but it's complex. And for a long time I did Python, like centuries still in Python. And I loved Python as a language, particularly in Django, because it made it accessible, and all of a sudden you had a reason to use Python because it was web now. It's gotten more complicated these days too. Like they've added a type system, and it's like, I don't know. Like I'm not a fan of the way some of programming is gone, because there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place for simplicity. There's a time and a place for complexity, usually related to performance, right? Like it's fine that Rust is complicated, you know? It's better than fine that PHP is not complicated, you know? And so, yeah, I don't know. It's changed a lot, but I think it's still a great language.
Yeah, I think PHP is fairly underrated nowadays. Like, I don't know if you're following the work the Laravel folks are doing. I think it is incredible.
Yeah.
It is an incredible place to start. Like, all batteries included, everything you might want in the project. It's all there. Just go and use it.
Oh, another good part about PHP is like the auth and the session are just like all there and included. Right. Yeah. That was such a big jump when I went from PHP to like my first like create React app thing, because I was trying to do that on the back end with like Node.js. I was like, all right, so what's the session environment variable? Wait, I have to store this there's no stateful what?
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, there's a time and a place for everything, but broadly speaking, I think there's generalisms that are true. So there are no frameworks in JavaScript for the most part these days. They are not frameworks. They don't include anything. There are front ends. There are rendering, basically template engines. I would argue Next.js is a template engine. It's a rendering layer. Every front-end thing is a rendering layer. They are not frameworks. There are no database adapters. There's no auth baked into any of these things. There's no session management. There are none of the things you need for a web framework to actually function. Some other things have just not kept up, and I think this is one area Laravel does really, really well. And I'm a big fan of Taylor. Like, Taylor is like, I feel like him and I are similar people. We both really like tech. We like building things. I'm in a different sort of stage of my journey, but he's sort of now like building Laravel in a much bigger company and stuff. And so it's kind of interesting, but like, it's the one framework. It's like, yeah, JavaScript is important. We do want that like rich front end experience, which is really, really important, versus Rails was like a holdout. Django, I don't know what they're doing anymore. And it actually is batteries included. It has what you need to build a business. Yet here we are trying to reinvent all that stuff. Even there's a quote. So I love this podcast at Choir.fm. I don't know if you've heard it. They're like 4-hour-long episodes. Amazing if you haven't. But besides the point, they always push this quote from Bezos, which is like, do all the things that, it's like something like only do the things that make your beer taste good. Some idea of like, don't do things that are irrelevant to your business. And I'm like, you know what's irrelevant to my business? Building Auth. You know what's also irrelevant to my business? Paying a cloud service to just have for Auth to even exist. Neither of those things need to be true. They weren't true 20 years ago. They don't need to be true today, but like, those are the options basically. I can roll something like Clerk and then pay money forever, or I can DIY it because the libraries are not quite plug and play. It's a bunch of like stitch stuff together. And I just don't like this state of technology. It's not great.
Yeah, it feels like you have to do everything yourself, even though it's being advertised where you have to do nothing. Like the setups for some basic boilerplate apps. Like, I don't know, you'll see like all these SaaS ship faster and all these other boilerplates that are advertised to be like, oh, it's super simple.
Yeah.
I bought Ship Faster a while ago because I was going to do a video on it. And I looked inside of it expecting it to be like a very minimal Next.js app with just a bunch of components. It is so complex that it's like, I would hate to be like a beginner into code and looking at this massive repo and being like, magic links? What is this authentication? What's the bearer? Why is it expire? I'm like, it feels so overwhelming to like a junior dev. And I would hate to enter with this. And I feel like that's a bad thing too, because they look at it, it's not simple, and they're going to be like, okay, well, let me just use AI to understand it. And they're going to miss out on that initial understanding of actually how the repo works, why we need these certain things that I and everyone else in this call has sort of gotten because we haven't had AI available. And we've actually had to get into the nitty gritty and actually understand it.
Yeah. I think the other problem is the concept that you don't have to know like a magic link or how auth works. That's totally fine. I think that's desirable, right? But the concept that it's a template, like a skeleton, a boilerplate that you still have to maintain no matter what, that's not okay, because you can't maintain it without knowing what it is. It's not like these things can update themselves because it is all just custom code at the end of the day. That's like enterprise software. That is like SAP level software, like stuff that nobody should be messing with. It's a yesterday problem. But like somehow now we're back to this where everything's a custom like software stack and whatnot. I don't know. Something's got to change. I'm just waiting for somebody to really build a genuine sort of application that solves this. I just don't know what it looks like because some people have tried. It hasn't stuck. Like I think Redwood was a little bit like this. It was a little bit trying to be more full stack and just nobody cared. I mean, maybe it's like they didn't like the patterns. That was me. I'm like, this is not my thing. But I really like Tansak's approach. But again, it's the rendering layer, so we'll see. But I do think there's a lot of work to be done there. And it's painful right now. I actually have no idea how you'd get started. You got started in JavaScript. And this is why I think they don't teach JavaScript. I think this is why every program that introduces you to code is still like, we're doing Python. I think it's still mostly Python. But like, I think PHP would be a totally fine thing to do as well, or Laravel even, like totally fine to expose people to.